Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SnodaReels. I'm your host, Blackshot56, and I'm of course joined by my greatest friend in the world. No, I'm kidding. That's way too nice. I have a friend over here named Awesome Bimboy. Uh, how you doing, Benji? That's a response. You gonna actually say something? I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna
I'm an
kill you.
animatronic, homie.
I know. I figured as much. Well, and funny enough, speaking of animatronics, what are we going to talk about? Well, of course, with Five Nights at Freddy's coming out this weekend as of this recording, and it's actually making quite a bit of money. We decided we're going to go ahead and. So we decided we're going to go ahead and semi-cash in on that a little bit by giving you our honest and spoiler-filled review of Five Nights at Freddy's. So, basically, before we get into full-on spoilers, we are going to go ahead and give our just general thoughts, and then we'll go into some spoiler elements and like theories that we do have of what's going to happen going forward. So, spoiler-free wise, I would say this movie is a solid 6.5 to 7 out of 10 for me.
Wow. Okay.
It is a decent movie. I do have my gripes, of course. Part of it is I think that they limited themselves making it PG-13 and shooting it as PG-13, which led to like one creative kill. I will give it that. Like, actually, I'll give it 2 or 3 creative kills. But aside from that, not really much. Especially with one particular scenario towards the end of what happens to a character, from how it looks in the 8-bit version of the game to how they do it in this. It's nice that they did add a little bit of gore, but in the game it makes it look so much more visceral and painful. It's painful, but it's not that great.
I would say the game. I wouldn't say more grim and painful. I would say the game makes it look more grim and more dark, kind of tone to it,
Yeah,
rather than the
I
movie
would
did.
say it's almost Evil Dead-esque a little bit in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as it goes, solid acting. I definitely think Matthew Lillard was needed more.
Yes.
That's my biggest gripe. I would argue is definitely little to no Matthew Lillard, which is disappointing. And that's not a spoiler. You're going to hear that everywhere. What is a spoiler is who he ultimately is, and if you're a FNAF fan, you know. If you're not, well, you'll find out. And then my other big gripe I would have to say is Vanessa, the cop that we follow with Mike. I
With
I
many
have an issue with
reasons.
her. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Without spoilers, technically Vanessa is supposed to be in the security breach game that wasn't
Which is
made
way further down. Yeah.
past the whoever originally made the first 4 FNAF games, I think. I can't remember.
I think he's been
But
involved with every FNAF game, but he made the first 4.
he made the
No?
first. He's involved, but he was not so much with the newer ones like Help Wanted, Security Breach, like those ones.
Okay. That makes sense. Um but yeah, so that those are my 2 biggest gripes, not enough Matthew Lillard, and Vanessa is all over the place. And then my third, it's kind of a nitpick thing, is it is a slow burn, which is fine. I'm okay with that. However, it is one of those things where it's like some of the stuff that they do during the day, or it kind of seems to take more press hold over the whole story, and therefore it kind of sucks away from what we ultimately came for. So I get it's important. I get the meaning behind it, and that was fine. But you're coming for animatronics, little to no animatronics.
Because you're not really going into this movie because like, oh, it's a new horror movie by Blumhouse or Universal. No, you're going into this because you know the game. You played the game when it first came out with FNAF 1, 2, or 3, either on PC, tablet, which is actually how me and my brother got into FNAF in the first place. We saw the
There you
YouTube
go.
videos and we played it on the tablet. It's my brother,
Mm.
he played it when he was in elementary school. He graduated high school now.
Right,
So
exactly.
put that in perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, solid 6.5 to 7 out of 10. It's not a god awful movie. Um, no, it's actually it's a really solid attempt. And would I go out of my way to buy this? No, as soon as it comes out on physical media. But if I have enough money and I'm like, oh, it's right there, yeah, I'll go ahead and get a copy of it. Uh, so that's my solid thoughts. Benji, what is your non-spoiler, just kind of general vague thoughts of the movie?
I mean, basically, yeah, it was everything you kind of expected because, yeah, 'cause my brother he made a great point on how this movie is something we never expected or even asked for, and yet when we got it, we actually love the fact that we got it, and we love how it actually turned out.
Yeah.
Because I noticed uh every time we went to the movies, me and you,
Hmm.
we went for like Saw X, those big kind of franchise movies.
Yeah.
Theater was almost empty,
Hmm.
were they not?
Yeah, for some of those, like, now granted, for Infinity Pool, that makes sense. That was not very
Yeah.
marketed.
But Saw
Saw
X, I
X,
honestly I thought that was gonna be
yeah,
more popular, but when I went to go see FNAF in theaters, whole theater was packed.
same here with
Ev
me, except for the first three rows. Yeah,
oh,
it
like,
was.
even if the and I was at Arlington in the
Oh
Dolby
yeah,
Theater, and
no,
that's a big ass theater too. From
that
the
is a big
front row
ass
to the
theater,
back row,
completely packed. Now, granted, I was in one of
very
the
packed.
shittier theaters at Grapevine Mills. So, like, by that I mean like the leather's starting to come off. They didn't recline. They were the old, like, they were still leather, like they were very comfy, but it was they creaked, they rocked, and
Ooh.
it was, you had those little two siders on both sides of the, like, you had four to six seats in the center, and then you had two seats here, two seats here, and there's an aisle between you. It's one of those
Oh.
theaters.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and now granted, I will say this towards the beginning, and this might have soured my opinion on the movie, which not really. It soured my opinion on the experience. There was a couple people that showed up late, and one lady was using her flashlight on her phone to try and find her seat and find everybody else's seat in her party within the
Oh,
first five
man.
minutes of the movie. And another thing, there was a couple that was whispering behind me, which is fine. That is fine. I personally don't care. It made me roll my eyes, but then there was a couple points where it's like dead silent, and you're trying to keep it in. Literally, I could hear them whispering behind me, and that was kind of
Ah,
annoying. And
yeah.
then during a reveal, not really like who this character is, but when they revealed the character's name via a picture, I know
Uh,
you know what I'm talking about. There was
yeah.
literally a kid in the way back row that said, "I knew it," and everybody in
Well,
my entire row turned around, and literally, my girlfriend even whispered, "Shut the fuck up."
oh.
Yeah, well, no,
Well, on
the reason why I'm impressed with it, I was 2 seconds away from saying it myself. I was literally
because
about to be like, "Shut the fuck up."
because when we went, there was actually a lot of teens there, and me and my brother were like, "Oh my god, like these
This
kids
is
are
gonna
gonna
be
ruin the whole
terrible.
movie." But no, like throughout the whole movie, everyone was all there were moments where it was like really quiet, and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, people are paying attention to this. This is okay,
Yeah,
okay. This movie's doing
no.
something to people."
Sounds like you had a far better experience than I did, which is
It could
fine,
I could I could be biased because, like I said, I played this game back on my tablet like when
Exactly,
the games
and
first
you're
came out. Yeah.
talking, yeah, and my thing is I know of the games, I never got into them. So I
Oh,
never
okay.
really
Yeah.
played them, but the way I got into them is I watched Matt Pat's lore videos. That's how I got more or less acquainted with Five Nights at Freddy's. I didn't really ever want to play
Okay.
any of the games, but I do know a good chunk of the lore.
Well, me and my brother did play the game on VR, FNAF 1 on VR, and to get us in the mood, and that probably amped up the hype for the
Well,
movie a bit.
yeah, no, and I was tempted to watch some Matt Pat videos before we saw the movie, but we were with another couple and we were waiting on them. So
Mm.
that's what it ultimately came down to. And we had lunch beforehand. So it just came down to that factor of like just didn't have the time, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, aside from that, what would you give this, like, if we're just keeping it non-spoiler, what would your rating be?
Unbiased, I'd probably give it a good 7 out of 10 only because there were some parts of the movie where I was like, okay, this is a little flat. I can almost see why this got bad reviews on critics because
Oh yeah,
it's not a fully well written film. Only because there's a lot of lore already written for the film.
and you got to try to make it mostly your own. So you
Yes,
gotta
and
you
and
gotta
they,
you gotta maneuver stuff around.
and they did try to make it
Yeah.
their own, and I think that was a little bit of the iffy part between me and my brother, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, that we will. But yeah, so you give it about a 6.5 to a 7, or I give it about a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10. You give it a solid 7.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, my opinion may change more or less thinking about it. Like there is some good stuff in this movie. Like arguably, I would say my favorite, uh, very low body count, but my favorite kill is what I think everybody is gonna say is their favorite kill. Um,
The Bite of
and
87?
the bite of 87, baby. I'm surprised nobody in our theater yelled that.
I was
Like
tempted to yell it.
seriously.
I was really
Oh my
tempted to
god.
yell it.
Like I heard so many people people's other people's experiences. They said somebody in their theaters yelled the bite of 87 and I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh
it's
my
like
god."
yeah.
Now, would I have liked my audience to have been more interactive with this? Yes, absolutely. But I have a feeling that because there were some little kids in the audience. I went to a 2 o'clock showing. I feel like if I would have gone to maybe a later showing, I would have probably gotten a more of an audience interaction. But it was still a packed theater. Like, I was very impressed with how well this. I mean, this movie is doing phenomenally, and I'm excited for
Oh
any
yeah.
potential sequels. Because
Cause
I think you can elaborate on the lore a little better.
because I saw a post on how well it did in the box office. It beat Martin Scorsese's Wildflower and Taylor Swift's World Era Tour.
On opening weekend numbers.
Yes.
Not surprised by Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moons, a Killer of the Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right. That's
I
what it
am
was.
surprised at the Taylor Swift one
Oh yeah.
because
I
that
think I
one
sent it
made
to you on Instagram.
bank opening weekend. Like
Whew,
they're still
yeah, because
showing
of
it.
yeah, because of how Swifties are these days, they have nothing better
They're
going on
they're
for their lives.
gearing up. They are gearing up to become the next Queen Bee, Beyonce's, whatever the fuck she calls her group. Um, yeah, my thought process too. I will say this: I like Taylor Swift more than I like Beyonce. You're looking for who the fuck asked? Okay, well, fuck you too. Anyways, that being said, back onto Five Nights at Freddy's. I guess so. Final ratings. For me, it's a six and a, anywhere between a 6.5 to a 7. For you, it's a solid 7 out of 10. That being
But
said, we are gonna go ahead and go into what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, if I were to give my biased opinion as a FNAF fan from childhood, 10 out of 10.
Really, you give it a 10 out of 10 for a FNAF fan?
Yes,
Huh?
definitely. Horror
Fair
aspects
enough.
could be tweaked up a little bit, but it was everything just like it was down to the good details of how the game is.
They could have played with tension a little bit more, in my personal opinion, because that
Uh,
is the whole point of the game. Is there is
yeah,
so much tension before the jump scare, and I
yep.
argue that is what you should do with a jump scare. You should ramp up tension, and also don't show your scares in the fucking trailer because god damn it, that's what ultimately ruins any Conjuring spinoff. They show off the best moments of the entire movie. Anyways, that's besides the point. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and go into spoilers. So, biggest one. We said there's a little to no Matthew Lillard. Well, god damn it, everybody knew he was going to be William fucking Afton from the first trailer. It's like, and here's the thing, I thought maybe they were going to go from the original lore, which is William Afton was on the run quite a few times. That makes sense, right?
Yep.
So, and this kind of leads into another problem I have because it is a solid line. However, it makes no sense for, in this universe at least, from what they've shown us, for William Afton to have an alias and for him to say, I always come back in the context of the movie that we have been given. Now, granted, they can go back and change lore all they want. However, it does make a massive plot hole. Why would his daughter, Vanessa, want to become a cop?
Well, here's
That
the
doesn't
bigger
make
plot. Here's
sense.
the biggest thing that messes with the lore because, like I said, Vanessa is the character you play in FNAF Security Breach game. Well,
Correct.
in the lore, William Afton's real daughter was actually killed accidentally by an animatronic that he made called Baby, and that's the
Correct.
animatronic you see in Sister Location.
Right. I
And in the
do know
movie
that.
where you see like the little, that's what killed
Yeah.
his daughter.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
yeah, so technically he
Yeah.
shouldn't have a daughter unless they go the route on where he manipulated Vanessa think that that she is his daughter.
Right. And that could be the case of what we're going for here. However, they don't mention, aside from Vanessa being his daughter, they don't mention, the only thing that would have made more sense is if Mike was his kid.
It would
Kind of.
make because
It
honestly,
would have made more sense.
I really thought that that's what they were gonna go for because in the
I
first
thought so
scene
too.
he said Michael
Yeah.
like he
Like
read
he knew.
Michael Afton
Yeah.
and it's like, oh wait,
Yeah.
Michael Afton, my son who killed my
Yeah.
other son in '83.
Or like it
Me and
would have
my
been like
brother,
his nephew or something,
yeah, like
something
me and
along
my
those lines. Like
brother
he
were
would have
like,
been
oh
related.
yeah, me and my brother
Yeah.
looked at each other like right there, just like, oh, that's Michael Afton.
Yeah.
But no,
No. No.
he
And that is
he
kind of
just
my
remembered the
biggest gripe.
name. Well, he just
Yeah.
remembered the name because it was a similar name to his
Well,
brother. He kidnapped his
he
brother
killed
and
he killed and kidnapped the brother, or kidnapped and killed the brother.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. There is a lot of theories because there are two post-credit scenes, technically. There's the one with the balloons,
yeah, Balloon
the
Boy.
balloons doll. Yeah, balloon ball. Yeah. And then there's another part where somebody is spelling out "Come find me." You're having way too much fun with this. And so a lot of people are theorizing that Garrett might actually become Puppet.
Okay, now there's another problem with the lore
It is, yeah.
because William Afton's partner, original partner Henry Emily, I think was his name, his
Mhm.
daughter was murdered by Afton, and her soul became the puppet in FNAF 2.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that are also speculating that Mike's father probably went under an alias or something. Um, he might be they might be the Emily's family.
Oh,
So there's a lot of theories saying that maybe they're manipulating some of the stuff because there is a guy in the training video that looks suspiciously like a younger version of the guy who plays Michael's dad in the dream sequences. So
mhm.
there's a lot of people that are kind of putting those thoughts together, and I don't think those are terrible strings to put together. But and if you do that, the Emilys changed their names, and so that would make sense to a degree that they changed their names, or at least uh what was the partner's first name? It was something Emily.
Henry.
Henry Emily. Yeah, so maybe Henry Emily went under like witness protection or something like that. Because
Because
maybe
yeah,
he
because
kind of
in the lore, he Michael gaslighted Henry, thinking that everything that happened at the original Freddy's Pizzeria was his
Mhm.
fault, and then Henry got locked up to a loony bin.
Yeah, so maybe they're gonna change that around to where like maybe Emily he's like, I don't believe this is what's happening, but the clues are way too high in there, and he reports it to the police and they put him under witness protection with the last name. What is Michael's last name in
Michael
the
Afton.
game? No,
Afton.
in the game. Oh no, sorry. Mike. Is it Michael Afton?
Uh,
Like he's actually Afton in the game, the guard, the
well, in,
Hutcherson's character?
well, you play Michael Afton when he's much older in Sister Location,
Right.
but
I'm
I
talking
don't
about the
think they're.
first FNAF game, the
But
security
in
guard.
the first FNAF game, I don't think that's Mike you're playing as, honestly. I think Mike is just the cinematic character, not the actual lore from the game
You're
character.
thinking William Afton.
No, no, yeah,
Will,
Josh Hutcherson's character.
yeah, he's Mike
I
something.
honestly
Starts
think
with it's Jewish last name starts with S. Hold on.
because I honestly believe that it's
Mike
yeah, Mike
Schmidt.
Schmidt. Yeah, Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, Schmidt. So Mike Schmidt is who I'm talking about. So maybe Henry Emily goes under an alias, and they give him the alias Schmidt, and then he has a whole family because of that,
Well, because
or he has a whole family after that.
I honestly think that Mike is just for the cinematic characters for the cinematic universe of FNAF.
And that could be always that always could be the case. It's not that
Could
they
be.
can't. I'm just saying like if they're making their own lore and you are picking certain characters from the game, maybe that is what happens. Now, of course, maybe while they put them under witness protection, they have the whole investigation, and of course they can't find anything. Um, And maybe that's what's going on. And then, but they're still like, okay, we're still going to keep you under witness protection just in case he does go after you or something along those lines. Like maybe it's
Yeah.
some weird reason behind that. And he ends up having a whole family and everything, right?
Hmm.
And so then let's say William Afton finds out and then he takes his son. And so that's why he realizes who this is. But that being said, so speaking of William Afton, this sorry, my alarm went off. The
That's really sounded like Freddy's music box.
yeah. But no, so speaking of William Afton, the whole spring lock scene.
Hmm.
I don't hate it. I'm glad that they did it.
Yeah.
However, that in turn I feel like you could have done if you're gonna play into the shadows element and like the kind of off screen on screen kind of shit. You could have had like because I mean you see flashing lights and stuff like that. You could have done something similar to Werewolf by Night, where you could have had him, screaming and then he finally like let's say you see what you see, right? You see the whole it goes into the ribs and everything else like that, and then kneels down, puts on the mask, and then I would say let's have it to where you cut to Mike's reaction, right? And then you see the shadow and you just see blood like spurting everywhere. Like maybe like there's like after he puts on the mask, there's one in the neck that goes and clamps down and you just
Hmm.
that kind of thing, right? I think you could have done that and you still would have been able to make it PG-13 because you're not technically
Yeah,
showing
showing it.
blood,
Yeah.
you're showing shadows. And
Hmm.
so it's one of those things, it's like you could have still stylistically made it over the top and you probably would have made a lot more people because I've heard like mixed results as how they feel about the lock scenes. Like I'm glad they put it in there. However, it could have been a lot better. And
Hmm.
I'm in the same boat. I think it
I
could
thought
have been significantly better.
it could have because I also thought it could have been more accurate to the actual spring locks
Yeah.
from the lore
And
of the
you still
game.
could have done a PG-13 version of that. Obviously, there's
Totally.
still going to be people here that are like, there's still going to be people that are like, oh, this should have been rated R, or they should have shot it as rated R and then edited down to PG-13 like Megan did. And I'm like, here's the thing. Yeah, that's great, but they shot it as PG-13. They knew that they wanted to make it PG-13. Should they have shot it as rated R and edited down? No, I don't think so. Because that's part of the reason why there's no reason to watch a theatrical cut of Megan anymore. You literally ruin, like, I mean, yeah, it kind of guarantees you're going to get more money in the after theater sales. That's fine, but it's just one of those things. It's like you still could have done so. Like I said, the Bite of 87 scene that was phenomenal. I loved that scene, and you still see some decent gore. It's not like bloody, but you see a half of a body fall to the floor. I was like, holy shit, this is pretty damn cool. I liked that. Like I thought that was actually really well done.
Definitely.
Like the cupcake was pretty well done
Yeah.
too. I yeah. Now of course, like I still think you could have done something similar. Like if you're playing around with shadows and off-screen, on-screen kills, like you can still do a lot with it. And it's not gonna it could scar kids if they know what's going on, but like I don't think it's gonna scar kids if you just showed like the bloody shadow. No, come on, man. And it's just one of those things is like I don't know. It could have been a lot better. I'm glad we got it. And I'm glad we did get to see a little bit of blood. Because if it would have been bloodless, I've been like, oh, come the fuck on. But there was blood. And I do appreciate that they did show what little blood we got.
Indeed.
Um, but how do you feel about the spring block scene?
Well, to the quality of it or to the lore of it?
Either or.
Well, because in the lore, it's supposed to like actual literally springs that like it's like a big spring, and the human will put their arm through, and then it will like slowly close in so they can fit perfectly into the suit, and that's what happened to Afton in the game. Those things just shut completely all the way down, killing him, bleeding
Right.
to death because of that. But
Basically, yeah.
the quality of it, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I thought it was really good just because
It was well
him
done for the limits of what they had.
because yeah, because he was literally slowly dying, and
Yeah,
he's still like in his killer mode, saying, "I always come back." That thing, and
yeah.
then seeing the animatronics just drag him away. Honestly, I'm actually okay with what we got.
I'm okay with what we got. I'm just saying you could have still done more. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. I'm glad that we got it. I'm
Yeah,
very impressed that we got what we got. But I'm just saying, like, you could have given us just a little bit more. Because, like, the big thing the director always was stating is like, oh, we played around with shadows and shot comp. And I'm like, okay, cool. You have one sequence where that really does happen.
that's
Everything
with
else is
every
either
time.
cut to off screen or it's not.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know? Yeah, and like, like either it's cut to off screen and you see the aftermath, which is fine. Like the kid with the cupcake, that was fine. I actually didn't hate that. I loved
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bloody handprint in the
Oh
janitor
yeah,
closet. That was done well.
yeah.
And again, of course, the bite of A7. I like honestly, if I'm gonna make any predictions right now, um, when James A. Janice does do a kill count for this, I feel like that's gonna get the golden machete or
Probably golden
the golden
chainsaw.
chainsaw.
Yeah,
Either
yeah.
it's gonna get the golden chainsaw or William Afton's scene is gonna get the golden chainsaw. But I feel like just because that is done so well, and that honestly is my favorite kill of the entire movie. And also William Afton isn't entirely dead by the end of the movie. He's still twitching and everything.
Well,
Like
because he
he's
is Springtrap.
dying.
He
Yeah,
is.
I know.
Well,
He is Springtrap.
he becomes Springtrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that, and that's basically a more decayed version of the suit, and he is fully haunting it now. Like, yeah, and I get that, and that's fun. I don't hate that idea, but my thing is it's just one of those things. It's like I don't think he's fully dead yet. I think he is. I mean, obviously, it's very heavily implied that he is going to die because obviously
Mhm.
he has to die in order to possess the Springtrap suit. But
Yeah.
um, I still think if I'm going to make any prediction kill count wise, I think Max's death is going to get the golden chainsaw. Dull
Oh
machete can
yeah.
go to anybody,
Probably
honestly.
the kid to the cupcake.
The kid to the cupcake would be a good contender. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna get dull machete. I don't even think the janitor closet's gonna get a dull machete.
No, the
I
security
think
guard in the first scene.
I don't even think that could be a good contender or the ant. The ant would be a really good contender, honestly. It's
Ooh,
like we don't
well,
even see any after effect. We don't see any aftermath. We see nothing. All we see is her feet with like a shoe, that kind of thing. And it's like, cool.
well, I mean, it's like satisfying. Yeah, we all hated her, and she finally got her
Yeah,
comeuppance.
it's satisfying, but it would have been more satisfying to at least like see the action of whatever the hell he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But from that, I would say I still think the acting is perfectly fine. There's a couple
Oh
of
yeah.
dull moments.
I
Now
would have.
obviously, hmm?
I would love if they did continue this franchise that Josh
Oh,
Hutcherson
100%.
becomes the star of the FNAF cinematic universe.
Or at the very least like a reoccurring character that shows up. I would love that. Absolutely. And I thought that the kid
Yes.
acting was really well done too. She wasn't too cutesy annoying. She was just cute enough, right? So and that's fine.
Yeah.
And now granted, really confusing thing, they seem to heavily hint that she might be autistic. I don't see it,
Mhm.
but I've heard a lot of
I don't
people.
know either.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, there are high functioning autistic kids as well, but like they play it off way too kid in a horror movie. Like, it's the best way I can
Yes.
put it. It is very too much kid in a horror movie, and that's fine. You're gonna
Yep.
lean into some tropes with Five Nights at Freddy's. That being said, the
Oh
animatronics
yeah.
and the suits from the Jim Henson Company, phenomenal. Like hands down, actually the
Oh
best
yeah.
part of the entire movie is that. And actually,
Mhm.
Foxy was the only full animatronic. There was no suit. It
Yeah, it was the
was
most difficult
just
one.
food.
Yep, it was the most difficult one to make.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was. Well, and I get it. That's fine. Like,
Well, yeah.
I would also say the sound design for this movie is really well done. You feel the weight of these animatronics as well, and it is
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. No, the sound design is phenomenal. Um, yeah. Now I will say this. So we're gonna go into like who cameos in this movie. Obviously, we have a Pat cameo, which is phenomenal.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
loved that. I love the fact that it's like I thought they said it was breakfast. Well, that's just a theory. I immediately was like, oh my fucking god, yeah. Like that was my hype moment. I was like, ah, oh, it was so good. And there's actually been the rumor has been what Markiplier's cameo was going to be if he was able to make it. He was going to be the opening kill. He was going to be that security
Oh
guard.
man.
And there's some people that are on the fence about whether or not that would have taken them in or out of the movie. I'm like, no, that would have been phenomenal. I would have loved to have seen Markiplier shit his pants on screen. You know?
Because apparently the taxi driver was also some other YouTuber.
Yeah, he was a YouTuber as well. I think he's like another one of those gaming let's play kind of character. I don't know him, but he was funny. I
I
didn't
don't
hate
either.
him. He was a good actor. Like he did a good job for what he was
Eh,
doing.
well, honestly, like Markiplier should have been there.
He should have been, but that was because Markiplier was shooting his Iron Lung movie, and that's fine. And it just came down to like the scheduling
Maybe.
couldn't make it. Well, no, is
Whatever.
hey hey hey.
If he was really wanted to, he could have done it.
I'm not saying he couldn't have, but I'm just saying like you know how the filmmaking process goes. When you're
Well, yeah.
really in on it and another person's like, "Hey, can you take a day or two to make this work?" And if it's like a big important production that you've been working on your pretty much your entire life almost, or it's something that you're deeply passionate about, you're telling me you're going to take a day or two just to go shoot something and be like, "Oh yeah, that's something from my past that I did. Cool, I guess."
If I was making my dream feature film
Mhm.
with Universal or Blumhouse,
Mhm.
and I'm actually working on it for like years, and I'm finally in the middle of production, and then some other studio goes, "Hey, we're shooting this Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. You want to be a cameo in it? Hell yeah!
That's fair. I
If
don't
it's just
disagree.
if it's just like a day shoot, yeah, let's do it. I'll be a cameo. Do whatever you want.
Well, and that's the thing is we don't know. We don't know if it was like basically what it comes down to is all Markiplier has said, and all I think the studio has said is that it just came down to they could not get the scheduling to work, and therefore by the time they were out of there or he was out of there out of location, they ran out of time. Is what it came down to. So I think they were trying so hard to make this. Shit happens, and that's fine. I do agree.
I guess.
Markiplier should have
Yeah.
been there. I don't disagree with you on that statement. I think it would have been phenomenal to see him there. Now, that being said,
Yeah.
could they have made a vocal cameo? Yeah. But that being said,
Hmm.
doesn't mean that he can't be in the sequel.
True. 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 True.
Exactly. So it just comes down to one of those things. It's like, it's a damn, it would have been awesome, but we're fine with what we got. Right.
Yeah.
And that being said, it's I will also say there's a lot more moments that I laughed than I expected to. The biggest one is Schmidt is getting his meds and it's sleeping meds, obviously. And the pharmacist behind the counter,
Oh
he's like,
yeah.
you know what really helps me is a warm glass of milk with caramel. And he just grabs his meds and walks off. And the guy just goes, what an asshole. And it just ends.
Uh huh.
I loved that. That was great. I loved that line. That was a really funny line. Obviously anything with the taxi driver was really funny. Um the freaking lawyer. Oh my god. Oh
Oh
my
yes.
god. Oh man. That guy was anytime he was on
Oh,
screen,
that
I
was
I
too
was
funny.
laughing. I was like, this guy is freaking hilarious. And when he finally started getting some lines
Yes.
where it's like, oh, I definitely should be a part of this, and she keeps making him sit down. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect. I love this. I loved the subtle tones of comedy in this. But you have any other points that you want to make on this movie? Any spoiler or anything that any theories that you would like to see in the sequel or sequels?
Really would like to see how they would go with the cinematic universe, only because in from chronological order and how it actually happened is FNAF 1, 2, 3, but then sister location no 4 okay, so technically the order goes FNAF 4, sister location, then
Right.
1, 2, and 3. So I want to see how they would actually go about that.
Yeah.
Because in this one, this first FNAF Freddy's
Mhm.
Fazbear's Pizzeria is from the first game, but in the movie it's like old and abandoned, and it's still up because the owner Afton doesn't want to let go. He just wants to keep using it to kill more
Yeah,
people.
pretty much.
So I'm kind of curious on how they would do a second one with Freddy Fazbear Jr. or
Mhm.
Fredbear Jr. or something like that, and have because Henry Emily opened Freddy
Mhm.
Fazbear Jr. to take vengeance on Afton and get all the animatronics to enter that pizzeria to destroy them.
Right.
So I'm really curious on how they will go about that for FNAF 2.
I'm with you on that one. That's actually an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I am very curious exactly how they're gonna do a sequel or a prequel. Um,
I would love a prequel. I would definitely would love to see FNAF 4 and maybe even Sister Location being in the
that wouldn't
same
be a
movie.
bad idea. Now, here's another idea. Hear me out on this. You get somebody to either you de-age Matthew Lillard, which is a very expensive process, or you get somebody
Ugh.
that emulates Matthew Lillard really, really well and is younger,
Yeah.
and you can have like flashbacks to stuff that happened in Sister Location, stuff that happened in Bite of 87, stuff that happened in freaking in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. So you can have flashbacks, and that way you still
Yeah.
technically get more of Matthew Lillard. Technically.
Or well, because technically we would follow Michael Afton. We wouldn't follow Mike
Hmm.
or William because in Sister Location you play Michael Afton. You don't like
Right.
so and then I guess in that movie it would have him like have flashbacks of him and his little brother during FNAF 4. He was always like torturing him by scaring him with the
Right.
Foxy mask, and then of course he put him in the animatronic, that was the bite of
Okay.
'83. So
All right then.
so yeah, those would be like flashbacks. I think we would love to see like a live action
Yeah,
flashback
that
of the
would be
bite of
good.
'83.
Definitely for sure. Definitely give us more flashbacks of William Afton because, like, the more you're gonna do, obviously, I think Matthew Lillard's gonna have less and less time on screen. However, that does not mean he will have less
Yeah,
screen time, if you catch my drift. He will still be a character, like you will still have
yeah.
the voice and everything else. And granted, the way they're doing this is they do tend to have the kids outside of the animatronic. You see their spirits basically more than you see the animatronics. Granted, I think that was also due
Mhm.
to limitation of how much they could use the animatronics as well, which is fine. That's a clever way of doing
Yeah,
it for sure. Because obviously these
yeah. I
animatronics
guess yeah.
cannot talk. They don't have vocal cords or voice boxes.
No.
Now, granted, Springtrap can because you hear the voice modulation in the mask. So that's one of
Uh
those.
huh.
It's like, okay, I guess technically, but you would still get a good chunk of Matthew Lillard for sure. And
Oh
for
yeah.
what little we did get, I definitely got Stu Macher vibes, and I loved it. It was great.
Yes, I was
Yeah,
totally thinking that. I was definitely getting a bunch of Stu Macher vibes and the big
yeah,
reveal at the end. Total
yeah.
vibes.
Yeah. I still would have loved it if they did like it would have been only a handful of people would have gotten it. Kids would have never gotten it. But no, it would have been funny if like if a phone got thrown at him. Maybe while he was in the spring jet and he's like, "You hit me with the phone, you dick." I would have bust out
Yes,
laughing. I
I
would have
would have
actually laughed
loved
and
that.
clapped. I would have clapped. That would have been awesome if that happened. But
Oh
no,
yes,
it didn't. Yeah. No, it didn't. And it's a shame we didn't really get any Scream nods. That would have been awesome. I would have loved
that
that.
would have been.
But I
Oh
get it. I
yeah,
get it. It's another franchise. You got so much lore you got to do. I understand. But come on,
yeah,
man. Do it in the sequel. Give us some Scream lines. Come on, man.
yeah. I would at
Yeah.
least give the fans a little bit of extra something for other fans.
Yeah, exactly. So it comes down to just that kind of stuff, and that's fine. For like I said, for what we got, the movie is not the worst. I'm not gonna
No,
say it's the
it's
best. I'm
not.
not gonna
No.
say it's best horror movie of the year either. It's definitely it's there. It's a good adaptation, but would I say it's like compare it to Sonic 2 or compare it to The Last of Us? I'm talking about video game adaptation.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like quality. I'm talking about video game adaptation. I'm talking about the adaptation. I would say those are far better adaptations than this is. And that's fine. This is still a really solid attempt. However, I can also see where
Shut.
some people who are not super fans or who are not like they're like, "Oh, I like Five Nights at Freddy's. I played it. I know enough of the lore. Somebody like me, I guess, and I still relatively enjoyed it. But it's people that like know of it or they know some of the lore. It comes down to I
Yeah.
can see where a lot of these people are like, "Fuck this movie." It didn't make sense, and that's fine. That's everybody's personal opinion. I know this movie is getting destroyed by critics. I think it's at like what, a 39% or something like
Like I
that
think
on the
like
critical score.
36, 39, something like that.
Yeah. And now granted, of course, the audience score is way up. It's like almost 80, it's like 86, 92, something along those lines. And it's got pretty good audience score, and that's fine. Like as general audiences, yeah, I can definitely see where general audiences would like this, and FNAF fans, of course, are gonna absolutely love this.
And let's
Um,
not forget that Rotten Tomatoes was outed for actually having paid reviews for certain movies.
oh no, and that yeah, but that's like with big studio backing. This one didn't get paid to get shit on. It just got shit on because those critics are like, well, I've seen this cliche in almost every other movie I've ever seen. And it's like, well, no fucking shit, Sherlock. It's not gonna reinvent the fucking wheel,
God,
you
it sounds
know?
like my professors. Really sounds like my film
Yeah.
professors.
Well, a lot of critics tend to think themselves of film professors or
Uh,
connoisseurs of a film, and it's just fuck off. Now, granted, one critic that I do genuinely love, which is Jeremy Johns, he actually gave this a dog shit rating. However, he did actually very clearly state, I'm looking at this as a movie, not as a video game adaptation. Because he's like, I know of FNAF, I know the lore. I have not played FNAF, nor have I exclusively looked into the lore. So it's basically just one of those things. Is like, I know of it, I know it exists, I have a vain interest in it, and I saw the movie, and as the movie goes, he gave it dog shit. But and there's been films where he's like, I give it a dog shit or a T minus. I'm gonna forget it in T minus one day. And there's been films where he's done that. I'm like, it's not that bad, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Like I said, and I would if I was Jeremy Johns and I had his rating system, I would give this a solid good time, no alcohol required. Maybe teetering on the it would have been a better time if you're drunk, but that's really it. Like I would give this a solid. It's a good time, no alcohol required. It's a solid C effort, and that's fine. You passed my ratings. You passed. Go on, get your sequel. But it just comes down to like, yeah, I'm not saying this is phenomenal. I'm never gonna say a FNAF movie is phenomenal unless it's phenomenal. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's a perfectly fine adaptation. That's my personal opinion. As a movie goes, it's fine. It is the most okay movie I have seen this year. I don't hate it, but I'm not absolutely loving it either. If you catch my drift here.
I get that, but you're wrong, and I hate you.
Shut the fuck up, Benji. You're not an animatronic. Anyways, uh, so your final thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's?
Final thoughts. It's everything a FNAF fan has always wanted, and because I think it's just because they loved it so much because they weren't expecting to actually get it.
A lot of
But
people
so,
were clamoring for it, but this has been in production for 5 years.
so I've heard. So I've heard.
Yeah, it's been in
But
production hell for a while. So the
but
fact we
now
got
that
it
it's
as
come
good as we
out,
did.
yeah, but now that it's come out, and the memes have been like spiking in recent days. Yeah,
Mhm,
guarantee it's definitely something a lot of people loved, including myself.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
kind of it's hard for me to actually hate it. It's even hard for me to even look at it as an actual film,
Mhm.
just because it's a fan service movie. Let's be honest, it's a fan service movie, not meant to be
Yeah, and
super
there's
great.
it's just your
It's
crowd pleaser.
exactly yeah, something for me and my brother to relive.
Yeah. And that's perfectly fine. You
Yeah,
can have movies that exist like that. It's not forcing any message. It's not trying to pander to anybody except for the fans. But that's something I would argue you can pander towards.
because
Um,
honestly, if
just don't
it
do it too
did go
much.
the route of like a real film supposed to go, I feel like that probably would have been a little boring, to be honest. If I tried to go that route of trying to be like a serious film.
I'm not saying make it a serious film. I would never say make Five Nights at Freddy's movie a serious film. I just think there's a couple of things that you could have tweaked and it would have probably turned out just a smidge better.
I
Now,
think
when it covered,
I think the only tweak could just make it rated R. That would have been fine.
yeah, I feel like it would have been positive, like from a general like critic score. I think that you probably would have gotten a little bit more leeway
Hmm.
because it's labeled as horror. I think if you would have
Exactly.
made it rated R, it would have been fine. I think it would have been received a
Yeah.
little better.
Oh,
I
for
don't
sure.
disagree with that. Yeah, no, I think that that's one of the biggest things. Obviously, the other biggest thing is like you don't hire Matthew fucking Lillard and only give him like 10 minutes of screen time. I don't even
Yeah.
think he had 10 minutes. I think he had like maybe what 5 minutes of screen time, maybe.
5 to 7, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, like if that. Like he was in like
If
the
that.
last 10 minutes. Now I will say this: I think the climax was a little. mm, it was
Yeah.
fine, but it's not great. I feel like you could have played on it a little bit more.
Kind of
Um,
finding out that he's the father of uh Vanessa. Oh, I I sat there pretty
that was
straight
such
face.
a
Like
last minute bombshell. I was like,
it did feel, yeah,
cool.
that does seem like a last minute idea. It was like, oh, we should probably just make it like so it like does this and that. Because yeah, I was
Yeah.
super like straight faced during that scene. I wasn't like, no.
No, I went. Yeah, no,
I
I
was
just
like,
went. Okay.
hmm, well, that doesn't make any sense
Yeah,
because
exactly. Right. You know.
he's not in the first game, and his actual daughter got killed by his own creation.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And but granted, maybe it will be revealed that it's like an adoptive daughter kind of thing. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what
something
it
like that. Yeah,
is. Something
maybe.
along
Yeah,
those lines. Yeah,
yeah.
because I don't know. I will say this: the opening credit was pretty good. Would you order pizza?
No.
Okay. But that being said, well, perfect timing. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this review. So, what did you guys think of Five Nights at Freddy's? Let us know down in the comments below if you've seen it, and let us know if you want to see more SnodaReels doing reviews of videos or of certain movies. I know that he and I also saw this Friday. We saw When Evil Lurks, and I would love to get a review of that out at some point. Um, and then we saw some other dog shit that had some decent moments in it. Uh, but that being said, like I said, let us know down in the comments below whether or not you would like to see more SnodaReels, SnodaReel reviews, if you will, and we'll go ahead and leave you with these final words. Do you want the job or not? How's the pay? It's terrible, but the hours are worse. Anyways, I've been Black Chef 56. I've been joined by Awesome Big Boy, aka Benji. That works. Better shut that off before we get a freaking copyright strike. I'm
But they
being
did add
genuine.
that in the credit scene.
Yeah, it was a really good like I would definitely say as a casual fan, it turned out a lot better than I was expecting.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
but that being said, this has been SnodaReels. I've been Black Chef 56, and we will see you all later.
Hello everyone, this once again is BlackChat56. If you like these videos, be sure to check out the playlist for SnodaReels. And of course, if you want to get some less in-depth thought processes on other topics, be sure to check out the podcast. We'll be dropping episodes every Saturday. Thank you all. Be good people.